I don't know why her eyes stayed in my head the way a song does. Quiet at first, then impossible to shake. But the first time she looked at me, really looked at me, I forgot what I was supposed to say. Maybe it was the way she held her gaze, steady and unhurried, like she was used to people folding under it. Or maybe it was that tiny flicker in her expression, something calm layered over something tired. Whatever it was, I felt it before I understood it. It happened on a slow Tuesday afternoon at the small repair shop where I work. The kind of day where the air smells faintly of engine oil and dust, and the fan overhead makes more noise than breeze. I was wiping down the counter when the door chimed, a soft, polite sound that didn't match the woman who walked in. She looked mid-40s, maybe a little older, with hair pulled back loosely like she'd done it in a hurry, but still managed to look composed. Her posture was straight, shoulders relaxed, as if she walked through the world already knowing where she stood in it. But the thing that caught me, held me, were her eyes. Not the color, but the way they paused on things. On me. "Hi," she said, lifting her phone slightly. "I think I broke the charging port. It hasn't connected all day." Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried, like people naturally listen when she spoke. I reached for the phone, and for a second her fingers brushed mine, not deliberate, I don't think. Her hand pulled back a little too quickly, a micro-hesitation that felt controlled, like she was aware of herself in a way I wasn't. "Yeah, sure," I said, trying not to sound as young as I suddenly felt. "I can check it." She offered a small, apologetic smile. "I'm not in a rush." Something about the way she said that felt weighted, though I couldn't tell with what. Time. Patience. A kind of quiet exhaustion. Her eyes dropped to the counter, then back to me, like she was debating whether to say something else and decided against it. I took the phone to the back bench, pretending to focus on the tiny screws, though I kept catching myself glancing at her reflection in the glass case. She wandered slowly through the small waiting area, fingertips brushing the shelves lightly, as if touching something made her remember she was still here, still present. She wasn't restless, just drifting. When I returned 10 minutes later, she looked up too fast, as if I'd interrupted a private thought. "It's not broken," I said. "Just clogged with lint. I cleaned it." She exhaled, more relief than the situation deserved. "Thank you. I kept thinking I'd done something stupid with it." "You didn't," I said immediately, then regretted how quick that came out. Her eyes flicked to mine, softening in a way I wasn't prepared for. There was a pause, a real one, not just silence. She seemed to study me, not in a strange way, just curious, like she was trying to place something about me she couldn't quite figure out. The kind of look that makes your chest tighten a little. "How much do I owe you?" she asked eventually. "Nothing," I said. It took a minute. She hesitated. "Still, you saved me from a small panic." The corner of her mouth lifted, and I felt that flicker again, something I couldn't name, but knew I'd think about later. She reached for the phone, but didn't leave. Not right away. She lingered by the counter, tapping the edge lightly with her thumb. "You're gentle with things," she said, almost like she hadn't meant to say it aloud. I didn't know what to do with that. I just nodded. She opened her mouth to add something, then stopped, gave me one more unreadable look, and finally turned toward the door. The bell chimed again as she walked out, but I barely heard it. What stayed with me was the moment right before she left, the way she glanced back, just once, like she wasn't sure if she should. And I still don't know why. But I haven't stopped replaying that look. I didn't expect to see her again so soon. 3 days, maybe 4 had passed, enough time for her face to drift to the edges of my mind, then pull itself back every time something reminded me of her. Which, annoyingly, was often. She arrived just after noon, when the shop felt sleepy and sun-warmed, the kind of heat that makes the air slow. I was sorting through a box of tangled wires when the door chimed. I looked up expecting a delivery guy. It was her. She held a small laptop this time, close to her chest, like she wasn't sure if bringing it in was an inconvenience. She wasn't dressed like last time, no polished calm. Her hair was slightly messy, strands falling around her face, and there were faint shadows under her eyes that made her look softer, somehow. More human. "Sorry," she said, though she hadn't done anything. "It keeps shutting off. I don't know if it's me or the laptop." Her voice had a rougher edge today, like she hadn't slept well. "It's okay," I said. "Let me see." She handed me the laptop, carefully avoiding touching my hand this time. Not dramatically, just a tiny shift of the wrist, practiced distance. Guarded. I noticed. While I checked the power port, she stayed close to the counter, one hand curled loosely around the strap of her bag. Her fingers kept tightening and relaxing, as if she was trying to keep herself occupied. I tried turning on the laptop. Nothing. "Probably the battery," I said. "Might take a minute." She nodded. "I can wait." But she didn't sit. She hovered. Like leaving the counter felt wrong, or maybe too lonely. After a few seconds, she asked, "Do you work here full-time?" "Yeah." I hesitated. "For now, at least." "For now," she repeated, almost like she was tasting the idea. Her eyes drifted over the cluttered shelves, the humming fan, the dull afternoon lights spilling across the floor. "You're young. Most people your age seem in a hurry." "Are they?" She gave a small laugh, brief, quiet, barely there. Her hand lifted to brush her hair back, and I noticed the tiny tremble in her fingers. A tired tremble, not fear. "I used to think so," she murmured. "Then I got older and realized everyone's just pretending they know what they're doing." There was something in her tone, an unguarded admission she seemed to regret immediately. She looked down, thumb rubbing along the strap again. "Sorry," she said quickly. It didn't sound like anything," I said. "It sounded honest." Her eyes flicked up to mine, unexpectedly sharp, like she wasn't used to being met that directly. The laptop finally turned on, saving us both from whatever silence was forming between us. I ran a quick check and found nothing major, just an old battery that needed replacing. "It's fixable," I said, "but it might die randomly for a while." She exhaled slowly, shoulders easing. "Everything feels like it's dying randomly lately," she said under her breath. Another slip, another regret the second it left her mouth. "So, thank you," she added quickly, retreating behind a polite smile. She reached for the laptop. This time when our hands brushed, she didn't move hers away. Not immediately, just long enough for a pulse of something, warm, quiet, impossible to name, to slide between us. She withdrew her hand, but her eyes held mine for a beat too long. "See you around," she said. And I don't know why, but the way she said it made it sound like she wasn't sure if she hoped she would, or hoped she wouldn't. It was the rain that kept her inside. Not a dramatic storm, no roaring thunder, no cinematic downpour. Just a steady, stubborn drizzle that made the street outside look blurred, like the whole world had smudged at the edges. I was closing the shop early since the owner never bothered coming in on wet days. I'd already pulled the shutters halfway when the door pushed open behind me. She stepped in, brushing water from her sleeves. "Oh, sorry," she said. "I didn't realize you were closing." Her hair was damp at the ends, darkened by the rain, and she looked more flustered than I'd ever seen her, like life had caught her off guard for once instead of the other way around. "You can stay a minute," I said. "Rain looks like it's not stopping soon." She glanced outside, then at me, uncertain. "I don't want to keep you." "You're not." She hesitated, then let the door close behind her. The quiet that followed was close. Too close. The shop felt smaller with both of us inside. Lights dimmed, shutters half down, rain tapping softly against the glass. She stood near the counter, arms folded, not for warmth, but as if holding something in place inside herself. "I was nearby," she said, avoiding my eyes. "And my phone started acting up again. I thought I could ask." "You can always ask." Her breath caught, just slightly. She wasn't expecting that. Or maybe she didn't want to. I took the phone from her and opened the back panel, pretending it required more focus than it did. She moved closer to see, her shoulder nearly brushing mine. Not touching, just close enough to make my chest tighten. The kind of closeness that makes you aware of your own breathing. "You're good with this stuff," she murmured. "With fixing things." "Not everything," I said before I could stop myself. She looked at me then, really looked. Her eyes weren't guarded tonight. They were tired in a way that told me she'd been holding something heavy for longer than anyone knew. She opened her mouth, hesitated, closed it again. Then, very quietly, she said, "This isn't how I planned to end my day." I didn't know what she meant, but the way she said it felt like she wasn't talking about the rain. Before I could ask, her phone buzzed in my hand. The screen lit up with a name I didn't mean to read, but did anyway. Mark. She stiffened. Not dramatically, just a tiny pull in her shoulders. I should take that, she said, reaching for the phone. Her fingers brushed mine, colder than usual. You don't have to, I said softly. She froze, not physically, but in the eyes. Like someone had caught her in the middle of a decision she wasn't supposed to be thinking about. I do, she whispered. She answered, but turned slightly away, voice low but tense. No, I'm fine. I said I'm fine. I don't know, Mark, I just needed air. A pause. A long one. She pinched the bridge of her nose, breath shaking. When she hung up, she didn't turn right away. When she finally did, her face had that composed look again, the one she wore like armor. Sorry, she said. That was nothing. It wasn't nothing. She knew it. I knew it. The room felt it. I handed her the fixed phone. Our fingers touched again. This time neither of us pulled away. For a moment, the rain outside felt louder. For a moment, it felt like she might stay. And for a moment, just a moment, I almost asked her to. I didn't expect her to come back that night. After the call from Mark, after the way she folded into herself like she was trying to disappear, I thought she'd leave quickly, maybe too quickly, and pretend the whole thing never happened. But she didn't leave. She stood near the half-lowered shutters, one hand resting lightly against the metal as if she needed something solid to lean on. The rain had softened into a misty hum, the kind that makes everything feel suspended. Timeless. I stayed behind the counter, pretending to wipe down the same spot, even though it was already clean. Neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was thick, waiting for one of us to acknowledge the thing between us we kept skirting around. She was the one who broke it. Do you ever feel like you're not where you're supposed to be? She asked quietly, her back still partly turned to me. The question wasn't for me, not really. It sounded like something she'd been holding for a long time, something she hadn't meant to say out loud. Yeah, I said, more often than I admit. She turned then, her eyes searching mine with a softness that looked almost dangerous. She walked closer, not intentionally, maybe, but she drifted toward me the way people move toward warmth without thinking. This, she said, gesturing vaguely between us, isn't normal. Her voice didn't accuse me. If anything, it sounded like she was accusing herself. I swallowed. I know. We barely know each other, she said, eyes lowering. You're young. She stopped herself, lips pressing into a thin line. You're you, I said before I could stop the words. Her head lifted just slightly, enough for me to see the flicker of surprise, or maybe fear, cross her face. She stepped closer to the counter. Too close. Close enough that I could see the faint crease at the corner of her mouth, the tired glaze in her eyes, the way her fingers twitched against her palm, like she was fighting every instinct in her body. Don't say things like that, she whispered. Why not? Because. Her voice broke sharp, then softened again. Because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I keep coming back here. I don't know why it feels. She shook her head, unable to finish. I let the silence stretch. Long, heavy. She didn't look away. It's okay not to know, I said. No, she said, almost painfully. It's not. Not for me. She exhaled shakily, fingers brushing her forehead. I'm trying not to cross a line I shouldn't even be near. I didn't move. Not a step. But something in me shifted, quietly, inwardly, like I finally understood the weight she carried. You think I'm asking you to cross something, I said softly. She met my eyes. Aren't you? The question landed harder than anything she'd said before. I opened my mouth, closed it, then spoke the only truth I could say without ruining everything. I don't want anything from you, I said. I just don't want to pretend this is nothing. Her breath caught. A small, involuntary sound. She looked away, finally breaking the stare that had felt like its own kind of touch, and whispered, almost to herself, Then tell me what it is, because I can't keep guessing. She didn't answer my question right away. Instead, she stepped back, not far, just enough to breathe, and leaned a hand on the counter as if the surface steadied her. The rain outside had faded into a quiet tapping, soft and rhythmic. filling the spaces between our breaths. I shouldn't say this, she murmured. It's not fair to you. I waited. I didn't move, didn't push. She seemed to need stillness more than anything. She reached into her bag with slow, almost hesitant movements, and pulled out her phone. Not the repaired one, another one. Older. The screen cracked at the corner. I wasn't planning to show this to anyone, she said as she unlocked it. Not ever, actually. Her fingers trembled slightly. She turned the screen toward me. A photo. A younger version of her, maybe 10 years ago, maybe more. Smiling in a way she hadn't smiled once since I met her. Open, bright, completely unguarded. Her arm was around a man I didn't recognize. Late 20s, maybe early 30s. His cheek pressed lightly to her hair, like he was comfortable there. Too comfortable. He died, she said quietly. My breath caught. Not because of the word, people die, but because of the way she said it. Soft, practiced, stripped of the shock long ago, but not the ache. He was 31, she continued. We'd been together for 5 years. And then, one car ride, one mistake, and she swallowed. You know how those stories go. I nodded, unsure if speaking would help or make something worse. I thought I was done breaking over it, she said, voice thin. And I was. Mostly. But then she stopped. What? I asked, careful, quiet. She looked at me like she was searching my face for permission she didn't actually want. You remind me of him, she said finally. Not in a romantic way. Her tone made that clear. It wasn't a confession. It wasn't an opening. It was a wound she'd finally stopped hiding. Not how you look, she added quickly. Just the way you listen. The way you don't fill silence just because it's there. Her eyes dropped to the floor. He was like that. Always patient. Always paying attention even when I didn't deserve it. She let out a shaky laugh. And I hate that. I hate that I noticed. The words hung in the air, heavy and honest. I'm not him, I said softly. I know, she whispered. That's the part that scares me. She rubbed her thumb along the edge of the cracked phone, distant, lost in a memory that wasn't mine to touch. Her breath unsteady, her shoulders drawn in as if trying to protect something fragile inside her. I don't want to repeat my life, she said. I don't want to cling to ghosts. But when I'm here, when I'm talking to you, it feels like I'm waking something up I buried for a reason. You're allowed to feel things, I said. Not like this, she whispered. Not again. For a moment, neither of us moved. The shop felt impossibly small, the air thick, the silence trembling at the edges. She set the phone down on the counter. And with a voice so soft I almost missed it, she said, I don't know if it's you I'm scared of, or the part of myself that I thought died with him. She didn't pick up the phone again. Not the cracked one, not the new one, not anything that gave her a place to hide. After she set it down, she stayed still, too still, like she was afraid movement would make everything she'd just said real. The rain outside had faded to nothing. The street was quiet. The shop hummed in that low, electrical way that fills empty spaces when two people are too full of things they can't name out loud. She finally spoke, but her voice was softer than the silence. I don't want to hurt you, she said. I don't want this to be some collapse I drag you into because I don't know where else to put my grief. You're not hurting me, I said. She gave a tiny laugh, more breath than sound. You think you're unaffected? You think you're standing there without feeling any of this? I feel it, I said. That's the problem. Her eyes flicked up. Something in her expression tightened, then loosened, like she couldn't decide if she was relieved or terrified to hear that. She took a slow step closer. Not bold, not hesitant, just real. The kind of step someone takes when they've run out of ways to lie to themselves. I don't know what this is, she whispered, but I know it's not nothing. The truth hung between us, unpolished, imperfect, strangely gentle. I nodded. We don't have to name it tonight. Then what do we do with it? I didn't have an answer. Not a clean one. Not a brave one. Just something honest. We sit with it, I said. Together. She let out a shaky breath, like she hadn't realized she'd been holding it. Her eyes softened, not with romance, not with longing, but with recognition. As if she finally saw in me the one thing she'd been afraid to look for. Someone who wouldn't demand anything from her. Slowly, carefully, she moved to sit on the small wooden bench near the counter. The one customers never used. She didn't invite me. She didn't have to. I sat beside her, not touching, not yet, but close enough that our shoulders shared the same space, the same air, the same quiet tremor of whatever this was turning into. Minutes passed. Maybe 5, maybe 15. Neither of us spoke. Her breathing steadied, then synced with mine in that unconscious way bodies do when they're done pretending distance exists. She ran her fingers along the grain of the bench, then stilled them. A moment later, her hand drifted, slow, uncertain, until her pinky brushed mine. Not a grab, not a hold, just a touch, a question. I didn't move. I didn't pull away. She exhaled, a quiet collapse of tension I hadn't noticed she'd been carrying. "We don't have to rush," she said. "We won't. We don't have to decide anything tonight. We don't." Her pinky curled, just barely hooking around mine. Something so small it almost didn't count. But it did. A soft, fragile acknowledgement. A mutual decision without words. A beginning that wasn't loud or certain, just real. She leaned back against the wall, eyes closed, breath steady. And in that fragile, charged quiet, she whispered, "Just stay." Looking back now, it feels almost unreal how quietly everything changed. Not in a dramatic, movie-worthy way, but in the kind you only recognize when you're far enough from the moment to see the shape it formed in your life. I didn't know it then, but that night, sitting beside her in that soft, tired silence, became the beginning of a different version of me. I think what surprises me most, even now, is how gentle the shift was. I didn't fall in love with her suddenly. I just grew into it the way seasons change, quietly, naturally, without asking permission. She taught me that connection doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives with a deep breath you didn't know you'd been holding. And she made me aware of myself in a way that no one had before, not by telling me who I was, but by seeing me before I understood how to be seen. Even today, when I replay those memories, I can still feel the warmth of her presence, steady, grounding, unhurried. She was the first person who made silence feel like an answer instead of a void. And maybe that's what changed me most, realizing that real closeness isn't loud or demanding or dramatic. It's patient. It's honest. It's the courage to sit with someone without needing to perform anything. She never tried to make me older, and I never tried to make her younger. We just met exactly where we were. Somehow that was enough. People always assume that love's greatest lesson comes from the moment everything ignites. But the truth? The lesson came after, when life went on, quietly, and I found myself reacting to things differently. I started listening more, feeling more deeply, speaking with intention instead of impulse. She didn't just alter my heart, she altered my rhythm. And she taught me that sometimes the most important people in your life aren't the ones who arrive with a promise. They're the ones who arrive with presence. We didn't rush anything. We didn't label anything. We just kept choosing to show up, for conversations that stretched late into tired mornings, for quiet dinners that didn't need to be special to feel meaningful, for those small moments when one of us would catch the other's eyes and know that something unspoken was building itself a home between us. Even now, I've learned that love doesn't always look the way you expect it to. It isn't always loud. It isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's a quiet understanding between two people who never planned to collide, but somehow became the place the other finally learned to rest. And if this story made you feel something, anything, I'd genuinely love to hear from you. Tell me what part stayed with you, what part felt familiar, or what part you wish could happen in your own life. If this story made you feel something, let me know in the comments. Would you want more stories like this?